Humans of the cardboard. Let's talk Shadows Light. This is a brand new card that actually got revealed in an OCG set. We'll probably get this imported somewhere around mid-year in 2023, but I want to make this video getting this out there for just some of the best targets you'll be able to abuse with this card. Because there's a handful of things that are really interesting. It's really just a pretty spicy extender more than anything else. It really reminds me of Ties of the Brethren, lower ceiling on it, but less restrictions, which is really nice because Ties of the Brethren's hella restricted. You pay 2,000, can't do your battle phase, and you can't special summon for the rest of the turn. So you lose a lot with Ties. This card, not nearly as restricting. So let's get reading on it just so we know what we're looking at as far as what this card entails and what targets we're going to be looking for today. But yeah, it says target one dark monster you control that is cost. Special summon a light monster with the same original type and level from your deck or extra deck. That's it. You can banish this card from your graveyard during your main phase this turn. You can normal summon one light or dark monster in addition to your normal summon or set. That's actually another pretty spicy piece. Theoretically, if you summon something that searches another monster, that would just give you another normal summon on top of it, which is pretty cool. And you can only gain that effect once per turn. You can only use each effect of this card once per turn, and you cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate either of this card's effects. So that's really the only drawback. No battle phase. You don't pay life points. You're not locked out of special summonings. You can still continue to combo off with this card. So yeah, I think there's some pretty cool applications here that we're going to go through here. Keep in mind, this card is really, really open-ended. You have to look through all, like, whatever it is, 1,300 and that's just the main deck light targets. Before you even get to the extra deck, it's probably like 1,500 cards total. There's probably going to be some other spicy targets, so please let me know in the comment section down below if there's anything in particular I didn't talk about here that you think would be a really cool target. But let's get into this thing. First and foremost, I think one of the most blatant things that I feel like a lot of people will miss, but I think in Ogdoadic, this card's like kind of insane. I mean, the other card we're going to talk about soon that's like similar to this card, but works a little bit differently, was also going to be really interesting. But because this deck is light and dark based, and they're all reptiles, and they're not only that, but they're 4s and 8s, like they're only level 4s and they're only level 8s for the most part. They actually line up really well for these kinds of cards. So being able to cheat out something like Iran or the other good light target, or even the small level 4 reptiles can be really, really good at times. So that'll definitely be something to keep an eye on there. So yeah, Ogdoadic. From there we move to Spellcaster. And this is the most important thing to keep in mind, guys, is because it has to match type and type and level. Level's whatever, right? But type is the big kicker here, because not only is it has to remain the same type, but you have to be targeting a dark monster of that type and have a corresponding light target for that monster. And that's where things become a little bit weird. There's only a couple of monster types in the game that really line up well with that kind of setup, right? Spellcaster being one of them. There's a lot of dark spellcasters, there's a lot of light spellcasters, so I think those line up decently well. Blazing Cartesia being one of them, to support a fusion strategy, which is cool. Trick Clown's another one, just for like link, just like a link up strategy, could be cool, getting you that float effect. Ecclesia is one where just on summon it's getting you a search, so get a punishment, get a fleur-de-lis, get a Maximus, whatever. That's pretty strong. Speaking of which, Maximus himself, just summoning it straight out of the deck if you had a level 8 dark spellcaster on field. Jalgan the Spiritualist. This is pretty cool because not only does it get Jalgan on field, but it gets an on-field in defense position, making it so that your opponent may have less outs to the card than they otherwise would have if it's an attack position. That's a pretty threatening card that can just win the duel by itself depending on the matchup. Riliona is another one for the Magistus archetype. It just searches a Magistus spell or trap on summon, so just being able to get like their fusion spell would be pretty cool, especially if like either of the monsters you're fusing with are floating. That's pretty spicy for sure. This card's pretty spicy. This is my fault here because I forgot that this card is going to be not have its text on the screen. But this is a new card coming in Photon Hypernova. When this card, or if this card is fusion summoned, blah, blah, blah. If a monster is special summoned by an opponent's activated monster effect, banish this card from field or graveyard to special summon a Dogmatica monster from deck. or a Despia monster from extra deck. So actually becomes a pretty cool card. Even if you just summon it and like link it off, this effect activates from grave. If your opponent ever tries to summon a monster via a monster effect, that's pretty good. Giving you access to like something straight from the extra deck or main deck is like pretty cool. So yeah, pretty interesting card to take advantage of there potentially. Which takes us to the dragons. By the way, this guy is a spellcaster, so level 8 dark spellcaster is what it would match up with as well, which takes us to the next good set of targets, which would be dragons. Dragons may be the best one in the game. A lot of good dark dragons, a lot of good light dragons, and I think that leads us into this. I mean, dragons are almost known as being essentially a chaos-themed strategy for the last couple of years. So Safer, obviously being one of the best starters, being able to just drop this straight out of the deck as long as you had a level 4 dark dragon on field is pretty nice. Something like this card's really interesting with Bestials. All the Bestials are level 6 dark dragons, so just being able to plop something like Cellglare, the luminous lunar dragon, is pretty spicy because this card's just a compulse for any monster with attack less than or equal to this card's. Or actually, he bounces himself to steal your opponent's monster till the end of the turn. And then you can just summon him back again next turn. It's actually a pretty interesting card. I like this card. It's actually pretty respectable. Could be an interesting card to be able to cheat out in those scenarios, I would think. From there, Black Rose, Moonlight Dragon. Now, the only downside, this is not a quick effect spell. This is not a quick play. So this would just be something you're like, oh, I have a level 7 Dark Dragon on the field. I need removal. Let me just grab Moonlight. You're targeting a special summon monster your opponent controls, and you're returning it to the hand. And then you can just leave this on the field, because it's just interruption anytime a level 5 or higher monster is special summoned to the opponent's field. So, yeah, that still works. It's pretty cool. And I think we're getting to the end of the better targets that I remember seeing here. Dawn Knight, pretty interesting one. I mean, we've seen Dark Warrior be a good deck. Although the really good level 4 Dark Warrior targets, I think those are a little fewer and far between. But, this card just says if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can send any light monster from deck to grave. A Foolish for any light from deck to grave is actually not too shabby. So just being able to cheat this guy out, link him off with whatever Dark Warrior you had, or make an Exceed's not what you want, but probably link it off, and then go ahead and trigger him to get you an extra send. Could get your engine going, depending on the kind of deck you're playing it in. And then we get to the weird ones. So these are ones that, like, theoretically could come up. They're, like, interesting targets should you get them out. I just don't think they have the synergy, like how dragons have a ton of lights and darks, how Ogdoadic is designed to pretty much be a chaos strategy, right? And spellcasters have lights and darks pretty much at easy access. These are weird ones. So the first one is Skeletal Dragon Felgrind. This card's cool because if it's special summon, target a monster your opponent controls or engrave, banish it. That's just pretty good value just off of the summon. He's a big body. And zombies tend to be dark attribute anyway. So, for example, you get out Ballardrock. You target Ballardrock, you summon this guy straight out of the extra. That's actually not too shabby. So, we kind of like that there. Pretty cool card. And then we get to a ton of fairies. So, there's actually a really hefty amount of light fairies. Like, fairies are almost always light. But the problem is when you look at the pool of dark fairies, there's just not that many great dark fairy monsters to be targeting with this card in the first place. So Banisher of the Light, it's just Macrocosmos. Same thing with Banisher of the Radiance, but they're both level 3 and they're lights. So show me a really good dark fairy monster that you would want to play in a deck like this. Barrier Statue of the Heavens, same thing. This is a new card. It's a new Manju card, but on summon it searches a ritual monster, and I believe a ritual spell. So it's pretty powerful if it resolves. Christia, one of the most insane floodgate monsters we've seen in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's really just insane, no special summons. So yeah, but you got to have a level 8 dark fairy. Kind of weird. Diviner of the Herald thrown into that pool. Super Quantal Fairy Alphen as well. Weird that this is a fairy. If this was a warrior, this would be way, way better probably. Or a dragon. Agent of Creation Venus, even though you'd also have to play Shine Ball Bricks and have to play level 3 dark fairies. Just, it's too much weird, right? It doesn't work. And then Herald of the Arclight for, an extra deck target. Yeah, it just doesn't work. Some other ones that actually could be a little more interesting. This one would just take a deeper dive. 4 Mud Skipper and Lady Debug, cards that both just being summoned out of the deck could get you pretty good value and extension. Specifically Debug, like just searching any level 4 or lower Cyberse monster from there is really nice. Yeah, like these ones could be better, but I think the worry more so there is going to be like, there's so many good Cyberse monsters that it's like, is this one spell going to be good enough in a Cyberse deck to like warrant playing maybe some of the less good Cyberse cards just because they pair up with this spell card a little bit better? I don't know. And then we have some Thunder stuff. Again, like there's not much Dark Thunder monsters out there, especially not level 4. So Thunder King Ryo and Zap Mustang kind of fall to the wayside here just because they don't match up there. If there were some like really insane level 2s, then maybe we're looking at something with Sprite, but outside of that, there's nothing really going on here. So yeah, just a bunch of like interesting targets here for the rest of the lights, but mainly it's just Dawn Knight. I would say some of these dragons, the light dragons that gave you some good value. There's also some Blue Eyes cards in the light dragon pool that could be like somewhat interesting. And then it's mostly Spellcasters and Ogdoadics. It really is. This, when I looked at this card originally, I was like, this is an interesting card because its lack of restrictions. But, you know, to be fair, we're probably like one brand new archetype based around like a chaos theme, lights and darks of the same attribute and level, away from like this actually being something interesting. But until we get back on that train or a new archetype that specifically works with it, I think it's just okay right now. Maybe Ogdoadic can play it, but outside of that, it's more cheeky than anything. But of course, it's definitely a card that I wouldn't mind picking up and like just kind of stashing until we do run into an archetype that could take super strong advantage of this card. So yeah, that's pretty much where I land on the card on Shadows Light. Interesting card. We'll take a look next time at the other brand new card. I can't even remember what that one's called. Hold on, do I have it here in my notes? Oh, Duality. The other one's Duality, and it's like the quick play one. So it's a little bit more interesting just because it's the quick play. So we'll see if there's any more interesting targets there because of that, the quick factor, but we'll see. But yeah, that's it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you have any light targets in your mind that could be really good to summon off of Shadows Light that I didn't mention here that definitely you think deserves to be mentioned, let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear anything I might have missed. I'm just one person, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.